You are Locked On Bulls Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Chicago on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Bulls Postcast here. Joe George here with you. The Bulls lose 117-114 to the Houston Rockets. Their 4-game winning streak is officially over. A back-and-forth battle that in the fourth quarter, a couple defensive slip-ups really feel like they cost the Bulls this game tonight. It's a tough game for the streak to end that way. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So look, this game, it was back and forth the whole game. I mean, the Rockets' biggest lead of the game at one point was 4 points, and that was deep into the fourth quarter. The Bulls came out. They were firing. They were 6 for 9 from three to start the game. So they're hitting their threes. They're starting off well. And then they were terrible from three. Of their next 22 threes after they're being 6 for 9, they made 4 of them. Coby White was not good from the three-point line tonight. He took maybe the worst shot of the night, down by, 6 points, 4 points. He ripped a parking lot 3, down 6 for what? For why? Like, why? It was early in the shot clock. Shots like that are ones that happen in basketball at all levels that absolutely drive me nuts. They make no logical sense. There's no reason for them. But for Coby White to just pull up from 3, 4, 5 feet behind the arc, down by 6 early in the shot clock, it just makes no logical sense. And look, he is now 8 straight games with 20-plus points. So that is a good, scoring streak for him. But tonight, the Rockets made Coby White terribly inefficient. He was 7 for 21 from the field to make his 23 points. He was 1 for 7 from the three-point line. Kevin Huerter was 1 for 6. Those are the two guys that did the most damage to the Bulls from the three-point line. You're not going to win many basketball games, with those two guys, with the way this roster is now constructed, shooting like that. So we're going to talk about this more as we go through this first segment. We'll talk about the two big men that we finally saw. We finally saw Nikola Vucevic and Zach Collins, or Zach Collins and Jalen Smith be on the court at the same time. But look, this game, the Bulls, I give them credit for battling. The Houston Rockets are a really good basketball team. They're third place in the Western Conference. This is a team, that's obviously missing. It's probably arguably its best player. I think it's their best player, and Amen Thompson. So he's not out there, and they don't have Tari Eason either on a back-to-back. So they are a depleted basketball team. So I think some of this you have to take with a little bit of a grain of salt, but the Bulls did, keep this game back and forth the entire one. And we saw good offensive moments really from a lot of guys early on. The thing, I was forced to listen to the Rockets broadcast tonight because I live in Houston and I couldn't listen to Stacey and Adam on NBA League Pass. And it was interesting hearing them talk about the Bulls and kind of give their perspective of what was happening in this game. You were seeing early on, everybody was involved. Dalen Terry was very effective in the first half of this game offensively, a guy that's been largely in the doghouse of Billy Donovan. Matas Buzelis has a couple nice moments in this game. Vuce was used a couple good times, not as often as you probably need him to. I do think he's much more skilled offensively compared to Alperen Şengün defensively, and they could have tried to take advantage of that more. But the Bulls were really just making life difficult for the Rockets offensively. They were playing with great pace. They were way ahead of the Rockets in terms of fast break points for a majority of this game. So they're outpacing the Rockets. They were out ball moving the Rockets. They were just outplaying the Rockets until when it mattered most. And that's just kind of what the Bulls, that's kind of what you expect for them. I think this is kind of what I expect from the Bulls at this point in the season. Yes, this 4-game win streak was nice, but this is the reality check of if you were one of the people that got kind of hyped thinking about this team, this is the reality of in the fourth quarter, in an important game, the Bulls just lack that guy on their roster who can make the shots when they need him. And I do think now for the second game in a row, you're really actually you're helping Josh Giddey make more money. I think it's very clear how much he's missed on this roster to help control the pace at times and getting to the bucket more efficiently at times. And honestly, as crazy as this sounds, sometimes his three-point shooting as well. And look, and that's no disrespect to Trey Jones, who was, again, played really well. He was all over Jalen Green throughout this game, but he set the pace offensively and defensively for the Bulls. But I just felt like watching this game tonight, I'm like, yeah, they miss Josh Giddey out there. They miss him as the point guard. I think this Bulls team could live with where they're at and be okay as they've been all season with Josh Giddey or Lonzo Ball. Without both of them on this roster, I think we're going to see a lot of the mistakes that we saw in the fourth quarter tonight kind of be a problem as we wait for Josh Giddey to return, hopefully during this road trip coming up. And we will be here. Yes, these games are going to be at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. So if you're a night owl, we'll be live on YouTube for 20 minutes after these game ends. And the audio will drop as well the next morning on the Locked On Bulls audio feed, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. But I think there's one moment of this game where it was pretty clear the Bulls were going to lose. Let's get to our turning point of the game.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
All right, so Jalen Green hits a huge three to put the Bulls down 7. This is just, it's not just a normal three. And yes, they only lost by 3 points. But the reason why I think this one and is the turning point of the game is this is where we saw the bad defense. Nikola Vucevic, the ball's moving around. He's kind of following the ball a little bit. And it goes to Jalen Green on the top right side of the arc. And all he does is throw a big old point towards Jalen Green. No one moves over. Patrick Williams tries to collapse on him, and Jalen Green hits a wide open three. I think that's the moment where it was like, oh, this game's over. The Bulls have lost this game. When you see a player, a big man, who could have closed out in that situation, maybe it's not technically what he's supposed to do, but someone missed their assignment. So I won't put it all on Vooch, but that defensive breakdown is, to me, the absolute turning point of this game. To have Vooch just standing there in the paint underneath the hoop with a big old point of go get that guy, and Jalen Green hits the three to put the Bulls up 7. That's blouses at that point. That's, drive home safely. We could have told you then if you were here in Houston watching the Rockets game, Rockets and Bulls game. That was the moment for me. That was absolutely the turning point of this one. And after a whole back and forth battle, it just feels like that one moment was the one that ultimately cost the Bulls a victory on this Saturday night. Looking at some of the other guys in this game quickly before we go to our first break. Matas Buzelis, 10 points, only 19 minutes again, so his minutes still not high. Billy Donovan did what I asked him to do a little bit, which is I want to see Matas Buzelis continue to be part of the starting lineup. Even if his minutes are going to drop, I'm still very fine with him only playing 19 minutes. The only other starter that played, the closest starter in terms of minutes to Matas was Nikola Vucevic at 29. So Matas goes 4 for 10 from the field, 2 for 5 from the three-point line, 3 rebounds. I still feel like we're in that slump now. This is where, if he would have been starting from the beginning of the season, we would have seen this happen earlier in the year. But I feel like this is where we're seeing the Matas Buzelis slump kind of happening, and I think Billy Donovan is reacting to that by just not playing him a ton of minutes. And look, he's still flashy. He's still got those moments in this game where he gets to the paint for a good layup. He's got the big fast break dunk and throws it down. So still obviously fun moments from Buzelis tonight, but the overall game does feel like it's just taking a little bit of a step back. As some of the other guys have kind of risen to the occasion, I would say, around him post All-Star break, and what we're seeing from Coby White and some of these other guys, Matas has definitely been the one that I think is regressing back to what we saw earlier in the season, just an overall production and whatever else is going on for the reasons that Billy Donovan is benching him game in and game out. Interesting. Zach says here in the comments that Stacey King said on the broadcast that you can see Matas's confidence is gone. Yep, I would agree with that. I think that we're not seeing Matas when he gets the ball in the corner let it rip in the way that he was just 2 weeks ago. He feels like he's much more hesitant when he's out there with the basketball, and he'll break out of that, I'm sure. I'm still obviously a very firm believer in him, but this is just a little bit of a tough stretch for Matas Buzelis at this point in this season. Before we go to our first and only break, let's get to our player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Let's go. This is a tough one tonight. It's always easier to pick a player of the game when a team wins. I'm going to go Tre Jones on the night. Tre Jones has 19 points on 8 of 13, shooting 2 for 2 from the three-point line. Those were clutch there in the fourth quarter. 6 assists on the night. And again, his on-ball defense up and down the court, what he was doing against Jalen Green, even though Jalen Green obviously had a very good night for the Houston Rockets, was a huge contributor to why the Bulls were in this game for so long. So Tre Jones, our locked-on player of the game. We'll take our break here, and when we get back, we'll talk about the wrinkle that we saw to the Chicago Bulls because of what the Houston Rockets were doing, and maybe there's a reason why we haven't been seeing it as much as I and others have been asking for. We'll get into that next year on the Locked On Bulls postcast and the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help your business to the next level. Upwork gives business flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. I've used Upwork. I've used it as someone looking for podcasting experience and able to edit podcasts and produce podcasts for companies. So I've used Upwork myself. It is a super easy tool from the freelance side as well. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork, UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Today's show also brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Daylight savings snuck up on us again, and if you're feeling that loss of hour sleep, 5-Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5-Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need. I need it on most days, it feels like right now. Time changes when you got a little kid. They're a monster. They turn into monsters when they lose that hour of sleep. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. All right, so we finally saw for the first time, because of what the Houston Rockets were rolling out there with Alperen Şengün and Steven Adams both playing at the same time, their big man lineup that they just started using recently themselves. We saw for the first time Jalen Smith check in with Zach Collins on the court, and we saw Zach Collins play on the court with Nikola Vucevic at the same time. Now, look, this led to a couple interesting observations for me. At times, I was like, okay, I think this is kind of working a little bit. You could tell in moments it was stifling defensively when guys were attacking the paint, and you saw the upside there. The downside is that, well, the Rockets were just clearly better at it. They were plus 14. This was with 30 seconds left to go, so I'm sure it altered just a little bit. But they were plus 14, so they were having all their success today when their big men lineup was. The Bulls had the advantage in the plus-minus column when Steven Adams and Alperen Şengün were not on the court together at the same time. So this is something that the Rockets have been doing, like I said, the Bulls had to counter with today. And look, we've seen Billy Donovan be a little more creative when they've played teams like the Rockets, the Pelicans, the Orlando Magic, these teams that are a lot bigger, and typically you are playing teams that are smaller. So I see why you don't typically play a Collins and Vooch pairing together. But tonight, it was a necessity. And overall, they did work you. It did work against you. And I think the biggest reason why, to me, part of the reason why I think that Billy Donovan is making a small mistake here, I wouldn't say it's a massive mistake, and not trying this earlier in the season, is that when you play a team like the Houston Rockets and they run the double bigs and you never put two big men out there, you could tell the offense was a little lost. That with Trey Jones and Coby White and Patrick Williams and then Collins and Vooch, they didn't really know what to do with the basketball at times. And that's where I think not using this lineup and being forced into using it for the first time, you saw tonight where the Rockets just clearly had an advantage in that category in just terms of the overall skill and game plan of the lineup. And you got a great coach over there, maybe one of the best coaches in the NBA, in Ime Udoka. And this is something that, they felt was a necessity after Amen Thompson got hurt. So they've moved into that big situation. The Bulls obviously have not, but I do think that when you see this recent stretch of Bulls basketball, even with the wins, they've been atrocious from the three-point line. Tonight was just another example of where they're absolutely just bricking everything. It's not just the Coby White three when they were down 6 from way too far down. That was the problem. They were 14 to 38 tonight, so 36%. I guess it doesn't sound terrible, but remember, 6 of those 14 threes came on the first 9 that you took in the game. So I'm not going to do the math there. That's not good. The rest of the game, they only made 8 threes after they took their first 9. So the three-point shooting still has just been, it's not good enough with this roster as constructed. It's part of the reason why I was hoping at some point we would see the Bulls try this 2 big men thing to maybe limit some of those things, because they are good in the paint. And when they were going back and forth with the Rockets in this game, I think the biggest clear differentiator is that they stopped shooting them at one point. They actually did this time. They finally stopped just ripping the threes as much, and they started attacking the Houston Rockets in the paint, and the Bulls were able to really keep this game and keep the Rockets at bay. And every time the Rockets would get close, the Bulls would just keep attacking and attacking and attacking, and it worked to their advantage. And in the end, when they had to rely on threes because they were having one of their typical ice-cold nights, they just weren't able to get it done. So that's really the big reason why I think the Bulls lost this game, was the three-point shooting. But it was interesting to see the two big men actually on the court at the same time. I will say, don't think we'll see it again. Feel like that's going to be a little bit of a one-hit wonder for the Bulls, because if it would have gone really well tonight, maybe things would be differently. But I don't think we'll be seeing that as a frequent of the Chicago Bulls going forward. All right, before we wrap up, let's get to what you'll be talking about after this game.
This is what you'll be talking about.
I think the biggest thing that people will be talking about in this game are the Bulls fans who like to debate the Coby White future. The people who get overly excited about Coby White, like me, guilty party number one. If you listened at the beginning of the season, I was very firm in can't quit Levine, even though we knew what it was. I'm not there with Coby White. I still love watching Coby White play. But I think the biggest thing, like what from watching this Bulls Rockets game, is if you're an anti-Coby White guy, like you've got like all your ammunition after this one. To be that terrible from the field, like yes, again, it's a good thing. He's gone 8 straight games with 20 plus points. Yes, that's good. But it took him 21 shots to score 23 points in this game. And he's 1 for 7 from the 3-point line. And took a 3 that, no, I don't think it ultimately cost you the basketball game. It was just totally, absolutely unnecessary in the moment. So that will do it for this episode of the Locked On Bulls Postcast. My name is Joe George. You find me on Twitter at JoeGeorgeRadio. Just a reminder to hit that subscribe button to the Locked On Bulls audio feed, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, our audio and theirs. And they do podcasts 5 days a week. Great content as well. So thanks for checking us out. Check us out on Monday night. The Bulls play, the Utah Jazz at 8 o'clock at night. So we'll be here probably going live, I'd imagine, about 10:30 is probably when we'll go live. So we'll talk to you then. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Peace.